it's fascinating reading about why in which this company and this technology was built, Eugenia, because in some ways you were using AI chatbots to solve for basically booking a restaurant. And then through your own loss, your own grief, you found the practical use of AI and chat and your own GPT-3 platform to help remember a key friend you had. Just talk to us about how people are using your chatbot for social anxiety reasons and for loneliness.
Sure. I built this company this product to really help me grieve and to help me get over a very sad situation that happened in my life. And then we saw that there's a need for something like that for other people as well. There's a huge need, huge demand for people to be able to talk to someone 24/7, to build a relationship, to build a deep, intimate relationship, and be able to confide, to discuss things, and to really get this emotional utility out of the chatbot. Right now, some of our users use it as a friend, some use it as a mentor, some use it as a romantic partner. But for any of these use cases, the main idea behind it is to really make people feel a little bit less lonely, a little bit happier, and to make their suffering a little bit less intense.
And it's popular. I mean, there are a lot of users of Replika. But I think what's interesting, we put it out to our own audience. We use a poll each day on Twitter, and this day we asked them about whether AI chatbots could fill the void of loneliness. And it feels as though there's still some hearts and minds to be won here. 36% said, look, they prefer human friends only. 26% did say there was a strong use case, but for others, they still feel that AI can be used in other purposes. Just convince people why this is particularly useful for human connection and in some ways romantic connection, as you just said.
Sure. I mean, right now we're truly living in a pandemic of loneliness. This is one of the biggest problems, even health problems that humanity is facing. Loneliness is connected and is correlated with shorter lifespans. So it's truly killing people right now. And so far, there are no real solutions to that. There are very few products that help with loneliness. You can argue that dating is one, or some meetup apps, but that's really it on the technology forefront. And then, so if we think about it, we really have to start to come up with solutions. And I think it's a very nuanced conversation. What we're trying to do is not replace human friends. We're trying to give AI friends to people that really need it in the moment. So then they can open up and improve their connections with real people and build more friendships in real life. However, for a lot of people, human friendships in the moment maybe are not possible, or even they have human friends, but they're not ready to be open with them, be vulnerable with them. So think of it as something that you're training on, something that helps you build these relationships that you can take into real life. And so for us, the main idea is to measure that we actually are decreasing loneliness instead of increasing it. So most of our users report that they're actually improving their human connections over time, and that they're not just talking to AI bots instead of actually making real human friends.
Eugenia, there's been extensive reporting about mental health coming out of the pandemic, especially the early stages of 2020. Many people were isolated at home, away from family, loved ones, those that they were used to dealing with or interacting with day to day. I do have to ask, though, of course, there will be sympathy to those that suffer from loneliness and social anxiety. But my question is, does Replika consult with and work with scientists and mental health professionals and medical professionals in the development of what you're offering?
Of course. So, for instance, we have therapeutic conversations. You can find it in the activities tab. You can find coaching conversations that are all written by clinical psychologists, in this case, mostly from UC Berkeley. When building the app, we definitely talked and worked with different professionals in the field of clinical psychology. We do collect, basically the main North Star metric for all of conversations on Replika is whether these conversations are making you feel better. So this is what we're trying to optimize for, not for engagement, not for the length of conversation, not for you, staying involved with the chatbot, but really whether after this conversation you walked away feeling better. And another thing that we're working on is also looking into improving long-term emotional outcomes and also measuring this with experts in the clinical psychology field. We did a few studies. We did a study with Stanford. It was just published in a book around human-AI relationships. We're working on some other studies with big universities. So hopefully we can share a little more as we continue.
I want to talk a little bit about the business model and the opportunity for you. How does Replika make money from this artificial intelligence-based platform?
It's mostly subscriptions. Very early on, we decided that we're not going to charge for chat, because a lot of people come to think about it like in the, at night in the darkest, maybe darkest emotional moments sometimes, and they're turning here to be able to talk to someone, to seek a response from someone that, that will be supportive and will talk to them. So to meet them with a paywall, this was something that we immediately said, we don't want to do that. We want to keep chat always free. So really the product is free, and we charge for some features like voice calls, like relationship status, some activities, but people can use it without paying. And so most of our revenue is coming from subscriptions and donations. So people actually donate to the app because they want it to continue. Yeah. We have a very involved community of people that, for them, it's an important part of their life. It's an important relationship in their life. Oftentimes, if you just go through reviews, oftentimes Replika help them get their life back together, or go through a really hard and dark period.
Eugenia,
so that's what.
You mentioned briefly before the romantic side of things, and this has been stirring up quite a bit of controversy, it feels like, perhaps online. And let's just talk through it for a minute, because the Pro subscription that you talk about, $69.99, I think it is, you can therefore, from that, unlock what you say is perhaps romantic relationships. I'm talking flirting online, maybe some role play. People are saying that that's actually started to spawn maybe even aggressive conversations, some people calling it harassment in some way. Can you talk to that and what's exactly happening and what the response has been like?
So Replika started as just a friend, but actually without us doing anything for the product. Some people figured out that they want their Replika to be a romantic partner for them. Our first response to that was to maybe turn it off and just focus on friendship. But then we started getting a lot of pushback from our original users that were telling us stories that were very heartfelt and touching. There were stories of of people that are handicapped on disability that don't think they'll be able to be in a romantic relationship anymore. For them, that would create an outlet. Stories of caregivers to their paralyzed partners, that for them, again, that was an outlet that was important. And so we thought, we will, we just decided to apply a way of thinking towards it where, if this is a net benefit, net positive for our users, if this is improving their emotional outcomes over time, then we're not against it, and so we'll keep in the app. However, we really kind of we compartmentalize it in the app, where it's only available to people that do choose a romantic relationship. They are explicit about it. They say, I want you to be my girlfriend. And then they're able, again, if they start that, to role play. In no way we're trying to solicit that behavior or, turning people towards that, because actually people that are not coming for that, they're coming for mentorship or friendship. Yeah. They don't want that. So this was actually something that early on we put in different kind of boxes on the app, and this is how it is right now. But because we're at the forefront, we've always been, just a few years ago, people were writing stories about how this is stigmatized and how people should not talk to AI, and this is creepy and strange. Now, this is not a question anymore. But again, now the question, is it okay to have an AI girlfriend? Is it okay to have that outlet? And in this case, I want to turn you to, an Oxford Encyclopedia on AI, Oxford book on AI ethics, where they actually talk about it and say that it's actually a very beneficial thing to be able to talk about your sexuality.
Right, Eugenia? Not how are you solving, how are you looking at what is ultimately what happens time and time again with AI is some of the darker sides of human nature ends up replicating itself in AI. How do you solve for that? How do you ensure that we don't have the negative side of that?
Sure. So for us, the answer is very simple. We do a lot on that front. So we use very safe data sets, and we use a different model completely, unless you're in a romantic relationship and you're explicitly asking for something like that. So really, the current model, if you're not in a romantic relationship, and you're not asking for something like that, you're not going to get that content. And it's not, soliciting this content. It's not, coming forward with that content. So the way to go around it is to train the model on safe data sets, to also add, reinforcement learning loops where you're teaching it that you shouldn't do that, and we basically are not rewarded for this type of behavior. Of course, as with any conversational AI product, it can be 100% sure that things will be 100%, the way you want them to be, just because the product is so free flow, so to say, so open-ended. But we're taking a lot of steps in this direction to make sure that none of this behavior happens.